about the degree to which the current president of the United States prevaricates, the degree to which he obfuscates, the degree to which he says things which are contrary or almost entirely unrelated to fact. There has been one person who has been touring his speeches, who has been watching him word by word, line by line, utterance by utterance, assertion by assertion, and tracking those. Story just came out. It's Daniel Dale from the Toronto Star. I will let him give his own headline to proclaim his own thunder and emit his own barbaric yawp. Daniel Dale, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So you found at least 2 or 3 times when the current president of the United States lied.
I'm at 3,749 false claims since his inauguration. So a couple of times, yes.
Okay, so two or 3 or 3,400. And you found something else, that he's had at least 2 or 3 just in the month or 2 leading up to the election.
Yeah, it's gotten worse. So I think it's fair to say that President Trump has been a serial liar since he took office. But it's worsened since mid-2017, and then it's worsened significantly even beyond that in the 2 months prior to the midterms. So in the 2 months leading up to the midterms, he made more false claims than he made in all of 2017. So 2 months versus basically 11 and a half. In the 1 month leading up to the midterms, he made 815 false claims. It took him 286 days to make the first 815 false claims of his presidency. So,
give those numbers again. So he did 815. For some reason, I thought it was 816 or 817, but 815 in the month right before the midterm election. So essentially October and a little bit, October and the first few days of November.
October 5th to November 5th.
Yep. And then, and that was about the same as he had done in how many days prior, how many months prior?
That's the same as he did in the first 286 days of his presidency. So he matched the number of false claims it took him 286 days to make as president. He matched that number in 31 days prior to the midterms.
So let's start with methodology. How, presumably, Conway would say, no, it's not lies, it's alternative facts. But what's your methodology for determining what a lie is?
Well, I think I'm just doing basic journalism. So, if he says something, I'll look it up. Is that number correct? Is there a basis for that story? What does the data actually say? And so I don't call all of them lies. Mm-hmm. I call it a list of false claims. I know this is a very political vocabulary debate. I think some are clearly lies, and I use that word frequently. Others, he may just be confused. He may be ignorant. We know that he is both of those things also. Mm-hmm. But I use lie when it's clear to me that he simply fabricated something. So when he tells the Wall Street Journal, as he did recently, I don't have any tariffs. What tariffs? Where are the tariffs? He knows he has tariffs. And so when he says he doesn't, that's a lie.
And how come more, you think? Is it just because, it's campaign time and therefore he's making more speeches, he's doing more rallies? Or is it more sort of the George Lakoff hypothesis of this is maybe an instinctive strategy, maybe not, three-dimensional chess, but an instinctive strategy to, because when it happens, not only do you say, it's a lie, somebody else has got to correct the lie, and all of a sudden he's guided the conversation and he gets to pick the topic, he gets to pick the fight. What do you chalk up the increase to?
I think this was deliberate, and I'm confident in saying that because having watched basically all of his speeches and having read every transcript, most of his lying in the past has been when he has deviated from his prepared text. So not to defend, Trump's staffers, but they're not, for the most part, writing these lies into his speeches. This is him being Trump, going off script. In the lead up to the midterms, though, the lies were often in the script. They were in the text. So they were putting things in the speeches like, Democrats want to abolish the borders. Democrats have no plan to protect people with pre-existing conditions. And so these were big, obvious lies that he was reading from a teleprompter. So I think this was an orchestrated attempt to both change the subject and to convince people that untrue things were true on important midterm issues.
Any of the lies that you so you've been going around. How do you make sure you watch every speech? This has got to be how do you have time to talk to us right now? This seems like a busy enterprise.
Well, he's calmed down this week, thankfully. During the lead up to the midterms, I did not watch every one, but I read every transcript.
Yeah.
So I can tell you, without complaining about it, the 4 or 5 days where I just caught up on all this fact checking, it was like Thursday through Tuesday, basically, were among the worst days of my professional life, just because there were so many. So it was very unpleasant.
What is this doing to you intellectually? What is this doing to how your synapses fire to read his particular kind of stream of consciousness mistruth statements?
I don't exactly know. Maybe ask me in a year. I feel the same as I did. I don't think it has changed me in some fundamental way, but I'm just sadly familiar with these patterns. So I know when lies are coming. I know when he's winding up to them, and I know a lot of very obscure pieces of information because I've been forced to fact check his very trivial and obscure lies.
So it is 815 mistruths. You said misstatement. What's the word that categorizes all of them? Some are lies.
I say false claims.
False claims. Thanks. Okay.
Word. Yeah.
So the 815 false claims in a month. That's it. That takes some doing. Okay, that takes some doing. We don't know. You haven't done this with a previous president, right?
No, I didn't, and I wish I had. I started covering Washington in 2015, so I wouldn't have been able to do it for the beginning of Obama. And frankly, no one thought of this with previous presidents because even though all of them were untruthful at one time or another, we didn't see this avalanche from them that we're seeing from Trump.
What is your? It seems that the media is flummoxed about how to deal with this, and I don't. And I have some empathy about that. I think I'm among those who is flummoxed by what to do about it. Because typically, and this goes also to not only the false claims he has made or the lies he has stated, but also to the nasty things he has said, where it used to be such a thing like that. I mean, if you're Joe Biden and you and you get caught having plagiarized, you don't get to run for president anymore, right?
Right.
Like decades later, you get to be somebody's vice president, right? After you've gotten past that to some degree. But like one of those things is enough. I guess Trump has learned that as long as he says that the media is the enemy of the people, and as long as he has his own state-run media, as long as he has Fox News behind, and the legions of AM radio behind him, he doesn't have that risk, and he can offer a new one. It just distracts from the last one. Like part of the challenge is the media goes out, repeats the lie, and then tries to correct the lie. That does two things. One, the lie makes it around the world further, and two, it picks the topic. What do you think we should be doing about it?
I think we still have to challenge all of them whenever we can, even though I think that's a fair point about him picking the topic, because I just think, there is this conservative media ecosystem that will promote this stuff to tens of millions of people, regardless of what the rest of us do about it. He does have his Twitter account with however many followers he has now. So this stuff is getting to people. And so I think it is our job to challenge it every time. And I tried to make this point today in a piece in the Washington Post where I argued, it can make it seem pedantic or obsessive or trivial when we are repeatedly pointing out that the same thing is wrong. But I think if he's going to keep saying that untrue thing, we have to challenge it. We have to be as inexhaustible at challenging him as he is in telling them, because he's saying some of these things literally dozens of times. Like one of them is more than 90 times he said as president. And so if we give up on like the fifth time and he says it 85 more, then I think he wins there.
I've heard of at least three strategies. One is the ignore. You just argued against the ignore. The second is the truth sandwich. Don't lead with the false statement. Lead with a true fact. And then give Trump lied, call it a lie or call it a false claim, or accurately describe what it was relative to the truth, and then finish again with the truth. And then the other is sort of mine, which is every time I hear him do something crazy, what I try to do is discipline myself to take a breath, scan the room, and see what else is going on, and make sure I also am addressing not just his little lie, but addressing the big truth that needs to be covered. Any other advice you have, or what's one lie that was surprised you most that he kept saying?
That's a challenge. Well, let's see. Well, the one that he keeps repeating, I don't know if it surprises me, but he keeps saying that U.S. Steel is building. He started with 6 new plants, and he made it 7 new plants.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
And then U.S. and he keeps adding to it like very systematically. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger, even though U.S. Steel is not opening any new plants, it's investing in 2 new plants. And so just the fact that he keeps escalating that one, even though it's been aggressively fact-checked, is striking to me.
We're talking to Daniel Dale, Washington Bureau Chief of the Toronto Star. We're on Free Speech TV with Daniel Dale from the Toronto Star. You presumably are writing a book about this, yes?
I am not currently writing a book. I'm too tired to attempt to write a book at the moment. Maybe in the future. I don't know.
How many false claims do you have? It seems to me, I haven't decided. I'm trying to think about the book it ought to be. One idea I had for you was an annual calendar where, like, those ones where you tear off the pages and each one is a different lie. But again, this is the problem. You'll be repeating the lie, and you'll take a lot of paper, and it'll have to be more than 1 year because he does 360 in less than half a month.
That's right. Yes, those are those are a lot of good reasons not to do a calendar.
All right, so we'll have to workshop this, man. We'll have to figure out what to do. So I did want to ask just one other time, and I wanted to say goodbye to you more politely than just dumping you at the time of the break. Any other, as you try to process, so you already offered your view that you think it has to be addressed, that the ignoring strategy, because there's already the right-wing media apparatus that's going to repeat it. There's got to be some response to that. Any other advice, either with respect to the truth sandwich or my scan the room, take a breath thing, or something else that we should be thinking about proactively? Because I do think he's found a glitch in the small L liberal, in the small D Democratic media experiment.
Yeah, I just advise people, especially Trump opponents, not to despair that this is a post-truth era where facts don't matter at all. I think people see his shamelessness and his unwillingness to concede and to change in any way in response to people like me and say, well, this is hopeless. But the goal isn't to change him, and it's not even to change his most fervent supporters. I think we saw in the midterms, there are other constituencies also. So I think, if you can get facts to other people, you don't have to convince, that hardcore, 20% or 25% or whatever it was. I think there's lots of evidence that facts don't matter to a lot of people in America.
Daniel Dale, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for what you're doing. I'm following your work, and this is the thing. I will say one other response. One other response, I think, is precisely what you're doing, is to make the news story not the false statement, but the fact that he made a false statement.
Right.
And that's what I'm telling you what you already know and why you're doing it, presumably. But I really appreciate your work. Where can people find out more?
They can follow me on Twitter at ddale and the number 8, ddale8, and they can look me up on the Toronto Star website, which is just thestar.com.
Daniel Dale, thanks for being with us.